Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Tech Initializer. So today in this video we will be discussing about how we can make use of reactive features that are part of Reactive Stack in Spring MVC. For example, WebClient, Flux, Monos, etc. So let's jump into the video. So before starting the demo, we need to understand about Servlet API specification. So servlet containers like Tomcat are built on Servlet API specification. Before Servlet API 3.0 specification, there was no asynchronous servlet feature. It means whenever a request is received on a servlet container, a thread is being assigned to that particular request, and that thread will be blocked until the response is sent back to the client. But nowadays, most of the modern applications are non-blocking and reactive, so we needed a feature like asynchronous servlet. So asynchronous servlet feature was introduced in Servlet API 3.0, which made it possible to leave the response open for further processing after a full pass through the filter servlet chain. Spring MVC is built extensively on this feature, and it makes reactive return types like fluxes, mono, deferred results, completable features, etc. in annotated controllers possible. So by this feature, when we receive a request on a servlet container, a thread is being assigned to that particular request, but the response remains open, and the thread is available to serve more number of requests on that container. The response will be written by some other thread and is sent back to the client. Since the response remains open, the writes will still be blocking. Servlet API 3.1 Plus introduces the non-blocking input-output features, but they cannot be integrated with the Spring MVC. Hence, a new framework, Spring Webflux, was introduced that makes all the use of non-blocking features that are available in 3.1, and it supports both the Servlet API and other servers like Netty. So Spring MVC cannot incorporate all these features. The main point to note here is that even if we are using asynchronous servlet feature, the response writes are still blocking. We will see that in our demo. So let us see how the request flow is in the servlet 3.0. So first the client sends a request to the servlet container. Servlet container then allocates a thread and invokes a servlet in it. Start async method has been added in servlet 3.0, which the servlet calls and saves the async context in the queue and returns. Hence the thread will be available to serve more requests. So the container thread is exited, but the response remains open. Some other thread will use the saved async context to complete the response, and finally the client receives the response. So now we will see it in a live demo where we will be using two applications. One will be Spring MVC and the other will be Spring Webflux application that will be called by our Spring MVC application, which is using the Spring Webflux features. So let me walk you through the Spring Webflux application that will be called by our Spring MVC application. So this application only contains a simple remote controller having two get mappings, where one is the message endpoint here, the request mapping message, which just returns a mono of string, which is hello Spring MVC, and the other get mapping is message of event streams. So this endpoint will be serving a lot of servers and events here, and so it will be sending 20 events here, 0 to 20, and the delay is added of 1 second between these elements, and it is returning a flux of strings. Flux means sequence of strings. In the POM file of this application, we are only using Spring Starter Webflux. So let's start this application. You can see the application has been started, and it is started on 8081 port, and it started on the Netty server. Now let us look through the Spring MVC application. So in the Spring MVC application, let us go through the POM file first. So in the POM file, we are using both starters, the web starter as well as the Webflux starter. So Webflux starter is required for using the reactive features of the Spring Webflux. Also it contains a reactive controller which will be calling our Webflux application. So here we are using WebClient for making remote services call. So this is the way how we build a web client, passing a builder instance here in the controller, in the constructor, and then we build the web client with the base URL. So in the message endpoint here, so we are calling our Spring Webflux application message endpoint, and we are expecting a mono string. And here we are calling the second endpoint message event stream, and it produces a text event stream value. So it will be receiving a lot of events from that Webflux application. Hence, it is the body is body to Flux. Now let me start this application. So the application is now started. As you can see, it the port is 8080 and the Tomcat server is started. So whenever you have added both the starters, web and webflux, then the auto configuration will lead the Tomcat server to start. Now let's clear these logs and call our first endpoint, which is a message endpoint. Okay, so we have received the response here, hello Spring MVC. Now let us go through the logs, what is happening. So as we have learned, like the servlet 3.0 servlet feature, here it started the asynchronous request, but the response remains open for further handling, as you can see here. So this is a different thread. As you can see, it is the Tomcat thread that has started the asynchronous request, and the response is opened for that particular request from that Tomcat container request. But the request is fulfilled by another thread, which is reactor thread. Here, as you can see, it is the reactor thread, and it is responsible for completing the response. So once the response is available, it is dispatching the response to that particular request, and hence the request is completed, and then it exits from the async dispatch, as you can see the logs. So this is our first endpoint. Let us see the second endpoint, the stream of events. As you can see here, right? So we are receiving a stream of events, and we are printing the stream of events. So in the logs as well, you can see the async request has been started, and the response is still open, and it will be completed by another thread. So now the response has been returned back to the client, hence the async dispatch has been done. So in this way you can return reactive types from Spring MVC application if you use Spring Webflux starter in your Spring MVC application. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe for latest updates and videos. Thank you.